The following content is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Always Another Way podcast. My name is Marina Sprocki, and I have a master's in professional counseling. I am the IPPY Award-winning author of Stop Looking for a Husband, Find the Love of Your Life, and Nasty Divorce, A Kid's Eye View. I write positive divorce advice for the HuffPost, and I'm trained in clinical hypnosis. And this podcast speaks to out-of-the-box thinkers, and it's for those who hear the call of hope and always another way. And if you're very rigid and set in your beliefs, this is probably not your cup of tea. However, you should note, tastes can and do change. And I just want to thank everyone for listening to the Always Another Way podcast. We are on episode 69 today. And so if you haven't yet already, you can go to iTunes or your podcast app. Search for Always Another Way. There's 2 L's in always. Be sure to subscribe and rate. The more subscribers we have, the more ratings we have, the more the podcast gets pushed up in the charts, and the more people can hear all of my amazing guests. And today is no different. This is something very, very important that we're going to talk about. So, what if you were to take in a job and you knew that it would be highly likely that you could end up with a mental illness that affects your daily life? Homeless, or that you would die by suicide or engage in other reckless behaviors that would contribute to your death? Would you take that job? But what if maybe you knew that, but maybe you didn't? How would we do that? And so today we are obviously going to talk about the military and especially supporting our veterans. And there's one thing I want to say, which is what everybody seems to do, which is right, which is thank you for your service to these people. But just like if I were to punch you in the face and say, I'm sorry, and then punch you in the face and say, I'm sorry, and punch you in the face and say, I'm sorry, what is sorry worth? And I'm not saying that thank you for your service isn't worth anything, but I'm saying to the guy with a gun in his mouth, I don't think thank you for your service is going to stop that. And to the homeless person vet on the street, thank you for your service is not going to help him get anywhere. So did you know that President Donald Trump signed a $1.3 trillion spending bill on March 23rd, 2018 that includes a $160 billion boost in defense spending over 2 years? Another statistical fact, in June 29th of 2016, according to the U.S. Department of Defense casualty website, there were 4,424 total deaths, including both killed in action and non-hostile, and 31,000 wounded in action as a result of the Iraq War. So 4,400 killed. But in 2016 alone, more than 6,000 veterans died by suicide. So not in that war. And I'm wondering, how much is a human life worth? And there's another book, it's by Lieutenant Dave Grossman, called On Killing, which is the culmination of vast amounts of research on the psychological cost of learning to kill in war in society. And then side note, I'm a trauma therapist. So that means I have people come into my office that just tell me the worst of the worst. So I'm not experiencing it personally, but I'm just hearing that. And anyone who is in psychotherapy knows that you have to get counseling yourself because you cannot hear this stuff over and over again and not have it affect you. That's not how it works. So I want to read to you something from this book that is essentially a safeguard in conditioning. And so what it says here that I wanted to read is that I wanted to start here. And it's talking to a guy about being in war. And he says, even though he had not killed, he had been taught to think the unthinkable and had thereby been introduced to a part of themselves that under ordinary circumstances only the killer knows. And the point is this, that the program of desensitization, conditioning, and denial defense mechanisms, combined with the subsequent participation in war, make it possible to share the guilt of killing without even having been killed. And there is a lot of research showing, and there's a reason why the military does this, is classical conditioning, why they've changed words from humans to targets. Because truthfully, in the years gone from World War I and II, where more than 90% of people did not fire their weapon because the human instinct to not kill is so strong, to these days where they have more than a 90% rate of people firing their weapons, is the systematic conditioning of the military to do this without acknowledging to these people that there's an extreme price to pay. And it would be different if you knew that these were all the cost, and this is how it was going down, that you were going to be psychologically brainwashed because you have to be able to kill when told, and that you were maybe going to have a chance, because there's more than 38,000 homeless veterans right now of becoming homeless, and 22 a day that die by suicide, that if you knew all those things, but still were like, yes, I'm going for it, then that's fine if you know these things. And then if that government that then asks you to risk your life says, hey, thank you, more than thank you for your service, for risking your life and for saying, okay, all these things could happen, but here's what I'm going to do, because we've got billions and billions of dollars on these weapons. But here's what we're going to do to help you out afterwards, knowing that you're taking this high risk. But that doesn't happen. If you look at recently in the past couple weeks about people that have killed themselves in the VA hospital.
Just the guy in Austin.
Just in Austin, just recently. And so I have got a guess, because I think we owe it to our military. So you can be against what's going on and support our military. Those are not mutually exclusive. Just like you can be against war and support our military. They're not mutually exclusive things. But to truly, truly support these men and women that risk their life, I think you need to stand up and speak out about what's going on to get them the help that they need, because they are risking a whole hell of a lot. So anyways, I've got a great guy on the show who knows all about this personally, and he's doing something about it. So Sergeant David Jordan is... Jordan. It's spelled Jordan. I knew that, and I asked you that too.
I have to correct people all the time on how to say my last name.
So I got so into my other stuff. But Jordan, spelled like Jordan,
yes,
is co-founder of the We Got Your Six organization and a proud 12-year veteran with the National Guard. His service began as a private first class, earning his way to ranking of sergeant. David served as communications soldier and communications signal maintenance chief for a Signal Brigade while with the 138th Signal Company, and served as a combat medic with a medical company during one combat tour to Iraq. While in the military, he became a certified Army instructor who in turn conducted survival skills training of hundreds of soldiers to prepare them for their pending combat tours. David has amassed in excess of 20 years of combined management experience that spans over his military and civilian careers. With more than 25 years of customer service in a variety of industries, David is well-versed in communication and presentation to small and large audiences that include peers, leaders, and citizens alike. Mr. Jordan gained business and accounting skills during his time overseeing housekeeping and laundry staff of a multi-bed nursing home facility. In this role, he was accountable for following and applying strict budgetary guidelines to include every aspect of the business, from scheduling through inventory, supplies, and costing. David Jordan brings one more special attribute to the table. He himself, like so many veterans, experienced homelessness. He knows firsthand what it feels like to be homeless and the obstacles and challenges our veterans face. He fully appreciates that every veteran's situation is different. However, with his unique experience, he's best equipped to reach out to these men and women on a very personal level that most others are not. David earned and cherishes 2 Army Commendation Medals for services, 1 Army Achievement Medal, 1 Army Good Conduct Ribbon, and the Iraq Campaign Ribbon. So welcome to the show, David.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we're just going to just let you roll and start
I can do that all day long.
with your story.
Really quick, I do want to give a quick shout out to a friend of mine today because you mentioned the 22 veterans who commit suicide every single day.
Yes.
Well, my good friend Jacob Schick, his birthday is today.
Oh, happy birthday, Jacob.
And he is one of the founders of 22 Kill, which is a global movement that started to bring realization of the fact that 22 veterans kill themselves every single day. So Jacob, just really quick, happy birthday, brother. You know, just wanted to give that out to you. And thanks to all the followers who are following us on Facebook today. And, you know, it's some of the numbers that you're talking about there are actually way off.
I'm sure they are.
I mean, there's over 400,000 homeless veterans nationwide on the streets
Wow.
at any given time.
That's a lot higher than 38,000.
Yeah. When I moved to Dallas back in 2015, there was around 1,800 on record.
Wow.
That number jumped up to at least 3,200 by 2017.
Okay, so just real quick, like mathematically. So if we're up to a 400,000, and maybe there's at any given time, call it
Now, that's on record.
Yeah, on record, 1.3 active in the military. That's almost a 50% rate of you going in there, which is crazy high. No other job. You don't go work for Chase Manhattan and be like, 50% of you are going to kill yourself or be homeless when you're done. No. Okay.
No.
Sorry.
And I mean, the sad thing is, okay, as you mentioned, the homeless period, right? Back in 2014, going into 2015, I was homeless for about 5 months. The shelter that I was in Lexington, Kentucky, there was 90 homeless veterans in that shelter.
Wow.
And there's one person trying to help us.
Wow.
One person can't help 90 people. It's impossible. And it's not the fact that we don't want to change our situation. A lot of us do want to change it. But society has a negative viewpoint on homeless as a whole. Once you get that homeless stigma attached to you, it's almost impossible to get it erased.
Oh, man.
And I was lucky enough to have a family member help me out. But some of these guys don't have that luxury. Some of these guys and gals who are out there trying to change their situation don't have the luxury of a family member to be able to help them out.
And then not knowing, because nobody gets to pick PTSD. You don't get to pick if it happens to you. You don't get to pick what happens in your brain.
No.
Your brain picks. And you cannot go through all of that and be on high alert without having something happen.
No, you can't. You know, we come back from being overseas and it's like we're expected to shut off what we went through and shut off everything else. And you can't do that.
No, and there's probably a lot of shame of people that just don't know how the brain works and thinking like, why is this happening to me? And I went there and I did this. And then that couples with all that just spirals too.
Yeah, and the thing is, you go overseas and some people have it a lot worse than others. I mean, if you're infantry and you're a door kicker and you're going in and you're kicking in doors and you're actually in repetitive firefights, you're continuously seeing battle buddies go down.
Yeah.
That's gonna mess with your head.
Absolutely. It would be weird if it didn't.
And you come back here and you're gone for, now deployments are a year, around a year or less. You used to be deployments for 15 months and you could go on multiple deployment after deployment after deployment. You go through all those deployments without getting the proper care when you get back and the proper decompressurization and transitioning period, it's gonna compound.
Yeah.
And then you come back here and you're trying to deal with your families and you're trying to deal with normal day-to-day life. And the pressures of here are different over there because over there you've got a systematic structure and you've got a team that you're working with that's going through the same thing you are that you can kind of lean on.
Yeah.
You got somebody that's got your six. But you come back here and you don't always have that. We don't always know how to communicate what's going on in our heads.
And you still have that brain that is going to be reactive to things because it's on high alert. small things.
Oh,
Gonna
definitely.
go off. That's
Oh,
how it works.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And, here's a sad thing is a lot of people think that these guys end up homeless because of drugs and alcohol. And that's really not the case. A lot of it tends to be psychological issues that they didn't get help with.
Absolutely.
Families don't know how to deal with them. They don't know how to relate to their families. They start having the night terrors and the visions, and they start seeing shadows of their battles who have been killed, or they start reliving some of the things that they experienced overseas.
Yeah. Moral injury.
And they don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to explain it, and they're afraid to ask for help because they're afraid of how people are going to view them.
Man.
And I mean, there was a couple of guys that I talked to in Lexington, Kentucky, when I was at the shelter there, and I would hear them having nightmares.
And how did you feel when you were there? What was going through your mind when you're just
When I was homeless?
when
or-
you're homeless? Like, what were the thoughts in your head as you're just sitting there of all those things?
The biggest thing that went through my head was I felt like I was worthless. Here I am. I've got all this experience. I'm honestly trying to change my life, trying to get a job, trying to get out of the situation I was in. And I'll be honest, I was too proud to call family and ask for help. I got turned down for 17 job interviews, 17 jobs even with all my experience, because they looked at me as a homeless person. They saw me as a homeless veteran, homeless person. They figured I probably had all kinds of psychological issues. And I actually had one person say, yeah, you probably wouldn't want to hire him because he'd probably steal us blind.
Oh, geez.
Basically he'd rob us blind. And I stopped and I looked, I'm like, you know what? Thank you. I'm like, I served my country, did everything I did without asking for anything in return, just to give you the freedoms to be able to judge me. And a lot of people do judge the homeless out there.
For
Not
sure.
realizing that there's two types of homeless. You have homeless by choice, and you have homeless by circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
Homeless by choice, they want to be on the streets. They don't want responsibility because they
And
can
I still got to
move-
say, there's something else going on. I don't think anybody wants to be.
Oh, some of the guys will straight up tell
Homeless.
you, I don't want the responsibility of being out there. I'm perfectly happy here. I can deal with my demons on the streets on my own, doing whatever I need to do. But then you have the ones who are like me and a lot of the others that I come across that want to change their situation.
Yeah.
They just need the right person to believe in them, the right person to give them that hand up
Yeah.
versus a hand out.
Right. And the skills and also the care that you need from coming back from somewhere of
Definitely.
something. It absolutely needs something.
Oh, definitely.
sure.
And that's where We Got Your Six comes in. And I noticed you guys have it wrong on the screen up there. It's We've Got You Six on your screen there.
We got you 6?
No, when it comes up on my name, it says We've Got Your Six.
Oh, we've
It's
got your
We Got Your, see?
We've got your 6.
It's We Got Your Six.
But we've got it. We got it. You
I
got
know.
your 6.
But, that's where We Got Your Six is different, okay? When I was homeless and I was in the shelter, I saw how broken the system was.
Yeah.
Not only my shelter, the shelter I was in, but some of the other shelters I've come across. Now, there are some good shelters out there, like Dallas Life Center, Samaritan Inn, The Bridge. There's good centers out there. So I don't want to take away from anything out there that's already in place. There are good people out there doing good things for the community. So for the shelters that are out there, you're doing an amazing job, and I know you're trying to help our veterans. So thank you for what you are doing for the homeless veterans that are out there in the homeless period. But the difference between our program is, not taking away from any of them, but we are a fully encompassing program. A lot of the shelters, they'll give you food, clothing, and shelter, and they'll help you on the steps to getting back out there. But you still have to go to a lot of different places to get all of your resources.
Right.
And a lot of the programs might only be 3 to 6 months. Now, when you take the fact that the average person is homeless 4 to 7 years,
That's crazy.
4 to 7 years, if not longer. And some of those are chronically homeless, means they'll get off the streets and then they'll end up back on the streets. 3 to 6 months isn't a lot of time to be able to try and take these people and prepare them to reintegrate back into society,
Right.
especially a society that's unfortunately as judgmental as ours is.
And then you already have that psychological of just when you are homeless, that extra cost of like the shame and the things that go
Yeah.
around that too, that of things that you can't help,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what we've done is we got your six is building 4 facilities. We're going to have a training facility, which is going to be a smaller 50-acre facility, which will only house maybe 10 to 20 veterans. But it's going to have classrooms. It's going to have a workshop. It's going to have a computer lab. It's going to have a rec area. It's going to have stables for horses because these guys are going to be able to work with horses and do equine therapy. We're going to have hydroponic gardens because they're going to be planting, harvesting, and growing their own food.
I love that.
And there's going to be acreage where we're actually growing our own cash crops. We're going to grow coastal hay and wheat, which are 2 crops that we can grow year-round here and help make ourselves self-sustaining. We don't want to have to rely on outside funding and grants. While we will take donations from the public and we will be filing for grants and stuff like that, we don't want that to be our sole funding, because as everybody knows, there's lots of organizations out there trying to fight for the same money. So we want to be able to do our own thing to be able to provide for ourselves, again, setting us apart from a lot of the other groups that are out there.
And what I like what you're doing, because you're also you're helping them in more than one ways, because giving people a sense of purpose and doing things on their own, which is what most people want to do,
Right.
is to do something and then to be able to do stuff on your own, feel part of a community, which is so very important, especially when you came from communities.
Right.
Too. But I love that that's what you're doing, is just not just resources, but resources that turn into action, which turn into a sense of purpose and a sense of pride.
Well, and that's why we developed the program the way that we did. We want to get these guys back into a sense of normalcy, of what it's like to have a normal 40-hour-a-week job. So what we've developed is 13 different programs that we will offer. Everything from debt management and credit repair, resume building, interviewing skills. If they want to go back to school in the degree and they haven't used their GI Bill, we'll help them get access to schooling or other programs. On the job training, we're going to be building workshops so people can come out and learn trade skills. And I mean, we've got a list of about 13 programs. I don't want to go through all of them here, but so we take them and we put them through a normal Monday through Friday situation. So like do you learn better in the morning or the afternoon?
Morning.
Morning. Perfect. I'll take the blunt of it and say I learn better in the afternoon. All right. So Monday through Friday from 8 to 5, they're ours. So 8 to 12, you would do your classes. 12 to 1, you do lunch. 1 to 5, you're doing your chores. Now your chores consist of taking care of the hydroponic gardens, making sure the fruits and vegetables are growing good, checking the bees, because we're going to have aviaries, because bees are a great source of revenue. We can make our own honey, beeswax. There's another revenue source. Checking the crops, checking the horses, grooming the horses, bathing the horses, checking the tack. Little things like that. You might have a bad back, so you may not be able to, muck a stall, or, you can feed the horses, you can paint a fence.
Yeah.
So 8 to 12, you're doing your classes. 12 to 1, you do your lunch. 1 to 5, you do your chores. 5 o'clock comes, that's your time. So from 5 o'clock until 8 o'clock the next morning, that's their time. They go to their brack, sleep, watch TV, whatever they want to do. Weekends come, they still have to do their chores, but then the time is theirs. We want to get them back into the mindset of what it's like to have a normal Monday through Friday, 40-hour-a-week job. Because when they get out there to get a job, that's what they're going to have. So we want to retrain their mindset to what it's like to have a normal job again. And it's also, like you said, it's going to help with their morale. It's going to help with their self-esteem. Now, the way we've got our program set up, I said most programs are about 3 to 6 months. Our program's 2 years.
Nice.
The first year, all we do is focus on the veteran, rebuilding their morale, their self-esteem, their confidence, and most importantly, helping them develop that support structure. So when a veteran comes into our program, the very first thing we do is we do an intake. So we find out why they ended up homeless. What steps have they taken to change their situation? Do they have a support structure? Are you in touch with your family? Will they support you in what you're doing? And where do you want to go?
Nice.
So we have a direction to take them. So we ask the tough questions and get to the root of what caused the situation in the first place, so that we know where to take them and where to guide them and direct them.
And I assume you're going to have therapy
Yes.
too. Yeah.
Yes. That is one of the classes that we have. Again, we've got like 13. I don't want to go through everything because I'll probably bore people. I could talk about this thing for hours.
Yeah.
But we do have a list of the programs on our website at wgy6.org if you do want to take a look at the programs and see what we offer.
And we'll have everything in the show notes too. So for later, if you want to look, you'll know how you can contact David. We got your 6, and then also to donate too.
Yes. But the most important thing is when they come in, they get a dog tag.
And I got one.
That has, this dog tag is what we give to our veterans and supporters of our organization, which, yes, I did give you one of the dog tags today because you supported us by doing this. But it's got the logo on it, but it's also going to have the veteran's name on it because we want them to feel like they're part of a unit again. So every homeless veteran that comes into our program gets a dog tag. So they are now part of a unit again.
Nice.
Just like when they served. We're now fighting a different fight. We're fighting the fight for survival and the fight of putting them back out where they belong, not on the streets where they don't belong.
Absolutely.
And the 2 years program is developed to be fully encompassing. That first year is completely free to the veteran. All we're doing is focusing on getting them where they need to be fully grounded.
Yeah.
Then the second phase, we start the transition process back out into the civilian side. We help them find a job. We help them get a vehicle, mode of transportation, so they can be able to get back and forth to work. They're still living with us, but now, once they have a job and they've got money coming in, we start the financial training. Money and debt management should have already been taken care of, but they've started going through a program where they're doing money management and budgeting.
Yeah.
So we help them develop a monthly budget so they know exactly where all their money is going to be going. So they have a good, solid financial plan. We start charging them $500 a month rent on the first of the month, and they got 10 days to pay it. Then on the 15th, they get a bill for $60 a month, which is a utility. They have 10 days to pay it. That gets them back in the mindset of what it's like to pay bills and have responsibilities. Now, that $560 a month they're paying actually goes into a savings account for that veteran. When they graduate at the end of the second year, they get a diploma, so to speak, and we cut them a check for everything they paid in plus the interest.
Love that.
So all of their money goes right back to them. We don't keep a dime of it.
Nice.
But now...
But you've incentivized them and showed them how to budget, and you get that real life experience.
Exactly.
Because your landlord is going to want that money.
Exactly. And since they've been living with us for 2 years... they now have what it's like to be able to have a landlord and be able to pay everything. Now, here's one of the other unique things about our program. What's one of the biggest things you can ask a homeless veteran that they're going to have a struggle with when it comes to finding a job? Not having a residence.
Right.
They don't have
Never
an address.
even thought of that.
They don't have an address.
Yeah.
So when they come into our program, they get a number assigned to them. So it might be a bed number, but it's a number that will act like an apartment number.
Nice.
So they go out to an address. So I'll use my apartment complex for example. 9425 Rollator Road, number 1325.
So it'd be the address of the place and then number 6, number whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
That might only be their bed number.
Yeah.
But the general public's not going to know that.
Yeah.
They put 9425 number 1326. It looks like an apartment number.
Right.
And we'll have boxes set up where they can get mail received.
Nice.
So now it looks like they have an actual residence. So now we have eliminated that, and we are acting like their landlords. They will put us down as a landlord.
And that's interesting because you know all this because you've truly experienced all of those things, which makes you just probably the best person because I truly believe, and that's part of just, and the thing about always another way, is you don't know unless you've done it yourself to speak. I have never been in the military, nor have I been homeless. That's why you're talking about it. But I'm a therapist on the PTSD, so I could talk about that.
Yeah. So, a lot of people ask me where I get my statistic and my numbers from. And have you ever heard of a thing called the challenge survey?
No.
Okay. So let me get back into my phone here because it closed up on me here. Okay. So some of the statistics and stuff I was talking about the homeless and everything, I do a lot of research on my numbers, but a lot of my numbers come from the national numbers, which were created by the Challenge Survey, created back in 1994 by the Department of Veteran Affairs. Oh. Now, this survey stands for Community Homelessness Assessment, Local Education, and Networking Groups Challenge, created back in 1994 to track the homeless veteran problem in our community. Now, I get these reports every single year. Usually around July or August, I'll contact with the VA and get the new report. So I don't have the 2018 numbers, but I will have those by about July or August. And I've got the reports all the way back to 2013.
Wow.
So just a couple of really quick things here I was going to hit on since we're talking about the homeless problem. So this year's 2017 survey had 5,280 participants. 3,191 were homeless veterans that participated. 2,820 were male, 371 were female. Gender, 88.4% were male, 11.6% were female. Highest age group, 45 to 60, at 54.4% being male and 51.2% being female.
Wow.
Highest age group since 2013.
Wow.
And this is all public knowledge. You can contact the Department of Veteran Affairs and get these numbers all by yourself. If you want to reach out to them, they will provide these numbers if you want to see the stats for yourself. And the highest races are black and white. White by 55.8% for male and 51% for female, and 36.6% for African American and 39% for females on African American. 25% are literally homeless. Now, by literally homeless, they mean couch surfing, living in vehicles, on the streets, shelters, whatever. Mm-hmm. If you don't have an actual address, you're considered literally homeless.
Yeah.
But 25% are male, 25.3% are female.
Wow.
And these are some of the numbers that we're dealing with.
Yeah, and you're right. And there's lots of numbers not on there, because even in like the things is people that come back, and there's a guy, and I forget who it was, but I should have looked it up before, who did a study on like people from California, but just the reckless behavior. So not directly. So when people think of when you die by suicide, like a calculated attempt, and most of them are with firearms. But just reckless behaviors, people don't know, and that's how PTSD hits you. And there's just not PTSD from war. You can actually never, ever see combat, but just from the training and everything else, be such on high alert and in such fear that your brain creates PTSD. And childhood experiences, all of these things. And then what people will do, they don't know it's happening. The shame comes in, you come back, and then extreme reckless behavior and drug use, which you will end up dying from those things, but not considered suicide, not considered anything else, just a tragedy.
Yeah. And it's really sad that there's all these resources out there that a lot of people don't even know they have access to. A lot of guys are afraid to try and get their benefits because they feel they haven't earned them.
But you've earned them. You
earn them by doing your job in the military.
Yeah. For sure.
Don't be afraid to ask for help. There's organizations like We Got Your Six, Alex Angel, nonprofit for veterans, 22 Kill, Stay the Course, Carry the Load. You have organizations like Gold Star Families that help for those who have lost people overseas. There's organizations out there willing to help you. You just have to step up and ask for the help, and don't be afraid to ask for the help.
What do you think the biggest mental block is on asking for help? What do you think the emotion down why people don't want to ask for help is?
Honestly, now this is just my opinion, I could be wrong, but my opinion, I think it's because we're so trained to be so hard and, not show weakness, that they're afraid that people are going to see them as weak and unstable. When it actually takes more courage to ask for the help and take the steps to try and better yourself and fix yourself.
That's right. And I think that's a good message to get across, is just that ability. It's not weakness asking for help ever, no matter what the circumstances
It takes
are.
a lot more strength to ask for the help than it does to try and deal with it on your own.
It for sure does. It for
And
sure does.
I'm the first one to say I don't like to ask for help.
I don't either.
I like to struggle and do it by myself. I'm a stubborn idiot, but you know what? My family, my friends have always been there. I love my dad. My entire family's been military. My dad was in the Marines during Vietnam. My uncle served during Vietnam. My grandfather served during World War II. He was with the Army and a lieutenant in the Army Air Corps, which later became the Air Force. But my family's been military, and I've always been a big supporter of the military. And I will always support the military, and I'm there for any veteran, regardless of branch. We will have their six no matter what. And the great thing about our program is, I said we're building 4 facilities. The one here, we're building 2 in Dallas, because the smaller one is only going to be about 50 acres, but it's going to be what we classify as our training facility. The other locations we build in Dallas, San Antonio, and Houston are going to be able to house about 200 people while they go through this 2-year transition program. Everybody will be trained at the smaller facility, so it's more hands-on, it's more direct, and we're able to monitor their progress in training. Then we'll move them out to one of the bigger facilities. Now, one of the things we're going to do kind of unique is we are going to encourage the homeless veterans that go through our program to come through the training program, so that we can use them at the other facilities to be able to use their stories and inspire the other homeless veterans for a better progress.
I love that.
And we do plan on going nationwide. I'm not stopping just here. Me and my team aren't stopping just here. It's a global problem. It's not just
It's an epidemic.
It's an epidemic.
And when you
but
have
it's
that many
it's
people,
worldwide.
if you just think, if we had 20 other people just sitting behind us right now a day, and then pile up 22 times 365. And then just absolutely no shame in asking for anything, especially when it's just such a high risk job that there is no other career really that I think you can sign up for in the US, where you have all of these just hardcore consequences just from doing your job. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all of these things to leave you that, and to have just absolutely no shame. And when somebody asks you to just risk your life, and you are doing this, and then to let people just feel the way that you felt being homeless, and then just, everything else that goes on, when it should absolutely not be the case. And I really do think it is the onus of our government, who employs you, that if you know there is a super high risk, which is evident by statistics, that it shouldn't take this gentleman here to come down through everything to come back up. There should be a lot more support, and really, I think a lot of that money to go and then let you run it and have all of these things set up, so that the people that are still going to, because we do need defense. You need this kind of stuff too, as much as you could be. I'm not a fan of violence or war, but there's a need. There just is, in the world that we live in. Have to have this.
Unfortunately.
But if you're going to have the people that are just brave enough to step up, is, hey, here's what we're going to do for you when you come out, not just good luck.
Yeah.
But help.
Well, and there's another thing about our program that I really want to reiterate on. So when we chose the name We Got Your Six, we wanted a name that was going to be powerful and symbolic, that every single branch would recognize. And everybody knows We Got Your Six as We've Got Your Back. So these veterans go through our 2-year program. We want to make sure that we're still having their six. So they leave our program. For the first 90 days, we do weekly follow-ups with them. Now, see, I could take you out to lunch, I could take you out to dinner, and we're sitting there, and you feel like you're being interrogated. But if I take you out to a baseball game, take you out to a hockey game or football game, or even just bowling or something, fishing or something fun, and I'm asking you questions about how you're doing, you're going to give me a more honest answer. Because if I take you out to lunch or something, you're going to feel like you're being interrogated, and you're going to stumble over your words, and you're going to think about telling me what I want to hear.
Yeah.
So we can't get a good feel for where they're at. But we take them out to do something fun, interactive, and engaging. And then I start asking them questions. We can get a better sense of where they're at, how the program is functioning. And we can add or remove programs as we need to. But for the first 60 to 90 days, we follow these guys along and make sure that they're on track. If they're starting to falter or fail in some way, we rein them back in a little bit, get them maybe back into the counseling program or something else to still give them that support. And then after the 90 days is up, we put them on a monthly program where once a month we still follow up with them for the rest of that veteran's life.
That's true community you're building.
And it's not just the community, it's that support structure. 6 months down the line, they might have a traumatic injury or a traumatic experience that resets them. But if they know they still have somebody to fall back on, they're never alone.
Yeah, that makes all the difference.
And if we're doing that once a month follow-up, it lets them know there's still somebody there that cares, somebody that still gives a damn, that's not going to let them fall back where they were at. That's the worst thing in the world, is to be down at that bottom part of the rung of the ladder after you've crawled up and not know if you're going to fall off or not. We will be there no matter what and have their six. And if it takes me doing it myself, I will. Every single facility we build, I am personally going to visit. James, Angie, and James, which are my business partners, Angela Messerly, James Lopez, and myself, all veteran-owned and operated. James is going to be running Houston. Angie's going to be running San Antonio. And we have already committed ourselves to visiting every single facility that we build, because we will have a hands-on approach and hands-on in everything we do. And I will personally reach out to any of these veterans that need help, because I've been there. I know how tough it is. And I know what it's like to want to pull the trigger. Because 5 years ago, February, 2014, I was homeless and I wanted to pull the trigger. I was actually, so I told you I'd been turned down for 17 job interviews, right?
Yeah.
I was on a bus back to my shelter. I got on Facebook and I said goodbye to everybody. Went back to the shelter. I was giving all my belongings away, and I was going to walk down the road to a busy intersection where I was going to walk in front of a semi-truck, because I knew there would be no chance of survival. And here I am now, all because my cousin helped me, and because I had James and Angie to help me build. We got your six.
And what was that
my support structure
turning point right there when you're doing this? And then you just mentioned your cousin. What was the one thing that just, you're on this way, that just pulled you?
He didn't give me much of a choice. He said, "You're coming out here to Texas and we're going to help you. You're going to, let family help you." And I'm like, "I'm not your problem. I'm not your burden,
And still even a little resistant.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be a burden on anybody. But he brought me out here, and I was out here for a week and my life changed. And then a few months later, I met Angie. She noticed something was a little off about me, and I said I felt like I was meant for a bigger purpose than driving a truck, because I got back into driving a truck. Mm-hmm. I felt like I was meant for something more than driving an 18-wheeler. And I'm like, God didn't save me for this. And she goes, "What would you rather do?" And I told her my idea, and we implemented it.
Yeah.
And we've been going strong since 2015. And we've actually won the best nonprofit organization for the city of Frisco for 2017 and 2018. So I'm pretty happy with those accomplishments. And we're just going to keep on pushing on. We've got a huge fundraiser going on Facebook right now where we're trying to raise, about $600,000. And, we actually chose one of the numbers we chose was for, we chose the number 22. So we took 22,022 people and asked them to donate $30, which is $30 you could spend at a restaurant for a meal.
That's right.
So for the same $30 you could spend on a meal, you can actually be one of the steps that helps end veteran homelessness. So for $30, if we get 22,022 people, that gives us $660,660, which is enough to be able to not only buy our first property, but build the housing for our first group of veterans that we get to help. And then we start on the stepping stones of transformation and growth.
I love that. And you are just such an inspiration and just true resilience of going up, down, back up, but also just the willingness to take that experience that you've had and to help others in a very similar situation, which really should not be, but it just is. And that's just so completely admirable and commendable. And just for all of you listening, fine, we've got your $6. Go donate it. $30, $5, $5,000. And if you got more big guns, throw down for them, because it's just a complete tragedy and crisis. One, just the sheer amount of people that die by suicide in our country, but then also that amount of people that have committed to serving our country that then do all this work and come back. It's just, it's an epidemic, it's a crisis, and I just love what you're doing to help that problem. And what do you want to say? Anything else for like the last 2 minutes going on?
The biggest thing I need to do is thank all of our supporters. When James, Angie, and I started this back in 2015, we had a vision and a dream of where we wanted We Got Your Six to go. And along the way, we've met a lot of amazing people who helped make our dream a reality. Big shout out to Shayla Allen, who's the main person on our advisory board, who's done phenomenal things for access to growth and helping get people in the community behind us. Sharon Screws, Michael E. Bradley, Bruce McAvaney, Nisa Salas. You guys have all been huge. Sheree Chapman, you guys have all been huge on making We Got Your Six a success. James, Angie, thank you for having enough faith in me, in my story, to partner with me to make We Got Your Six a reality. But to all of our supporters and fans out there, we couldn't do what we do without the support of you guys. You guys are the real backbone of We Got Your Six. Because we have a vision and a dream of where we wanted to go, but because of all of you, you're helping make it a reality. You're helping show the homeless veterans that there is still success out there and there's still help. So thank you so much for all of that.
And then for just everyone listening out there, and you've heard his story and just the complete change that can go around from wanting to take your own life to just at sudden change, so things can change. And for everyone listening, if you're even contemplating suicide for a second, that there is always another way. There's another day and another moment that will change your life. Reach out to somebody, get help. And for all of you listening, thank you so very much. And you know that there is always another way.